Welcome to Coffee and Conversation. My name is Honorine, and today I'm with Brendan Mendez, who is pursuing a PhD in finance. Brendan, thank you for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me, Honorine. This is great. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. So my first question is, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Brandon Mendez. Like you said, I'm getting my PhD in finance at Florida State. I'm in my 5th year currently in the program. I'm actually on the job market right now. So I'm going through the whole interview process and all that. Originally, I'm from Southeastern Virginia, the Hampton Roads area. Grew up there and then went to school at the College of Charleston for my undergrad in business administration. Joined the Navy out of there and went to officer candidate school and then down to Pensacola, my first trip down to Florida for a flight school. Did flight school in Pensacola and then went over to Naval Air Station Jacksonville to fly in the P-3 Orion. Once I got out of the Navy, I left. I stayed in Jacksonville, but I ended up becoming a controller for a nonprofit on the Mayo Clinic campus. After that, I started my MBA at the University of North Florida. And while I was there, networked, made some good friends, and ended up taking a job at Everbank, now TIAA Bank. Did that until I decided I wanted to pursue my PhD. And FSU was on my list of landing spots, and they reached out first, and here I am.
Awesome. So many questions out of this introduction. My first question is, why did you leave the Navy?
It's kind of an interesting story. So even though I was flying, and that was my role, I still got airsick. So I got airsick all the way through flight school. And it wasn't a problem. If I flew enough, I'd eventually get over it and I could, execute my job properly and all that other good stuff. Not getting sick. I still got through flight school. But it just so happened at the time I was going through, the Navy was actually downsizing, as were all the other armed forces. And they wanted to send me to a board to see whether they would retain me for getting airsick. Ultimately, I didn't get retained and got a reduction in forces discharge. It's an honorable discharge, but basically it's a layoff. I got laid off from the Navy at the time, and that's the reason I got out. Didn't expect that to happen. I would have stayed in for 20 years if I could have, but I think the path that it's led to has been pretty phenomenal. I never would have guessed it would have happened.
And how your experience in the Navy, how did it influence maybe the path that you took?
Flight school is pretty interesting. We always called it trying to drink water from a fire hose. It just like there was that much information getting thrown at us all the time. I got much better study habits while I was going through flight school and learned to become, I would say, probably a better student. And when I was leaving the Navy, I actually had, I think about 6 months, I knew I was going to leave the Navy. So I was kind of sitting there like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I said, okay, I need to pick up a physical skill. I was always good at accounting, so I'll become an accountant. And what can I do there to differentiate myself? I'll become a CPA. That'll differentiate me again. So it kind of like helped me plan ahead. So every time I went flying, I had to sit down and plan for at least 4 hours before I could go flying. So that was kind of my process while I was leaving the Navy. Like, I need to plan ahead. I need to get a really good process in place and figure out what I'm going to do, at least for the next 5 years.
Let's go back to your research.
Sure.
So I read on your profile that you work on a foreign visa or temporary working visa. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. So my first year in the PhD program, I got paired off with my advisor, Dr. Yingmei Chang. And one of my first meetings with her, she was talking to me about, hey, what do you know about H-1B visas? And I happened to say, I know a little bit about them, more than most, I guess, because I've been following the Disney story with the H-1B visa usage and the lawsuits that have stemmed from that. And she said, okay, there's this data set. I don't know how good it is. I don't know, what it really entails, but go pull it, take a look at it, and let me know what research we can get out of it. So it ended up being, they're called labor condition applications. So an employer, when they want to hire an H-1B worker, before they can even go into the lottery nowadays, they have to file this LCA and say, I want to hire an H-1B visa worker. And this is how many I want for this type of position, list the job title, and then list the pay. So they have to pick with the job title and where it's going to be associated, like where the position's located by zip code. They have to pick what the prevailing wage is going to be. It's not something that they can just go out and choose on their own. There's a government website that lets them know, hey, this is the prevailing wage for this position in this location. And then they have to say, okay, at a minimum, we're going to pay the prevailing wage, and we're going to pay up to, and they can put a dollar figure there if they want to. So pulled all that data, cleaned it up, took a lot of time to clean up that data because it was really messy. And so currently my data set spans from 2005 to 2012. So I ended up looking at it, and it's labor demand, and it's firm level labor demand, which is super rare, really hard to find. And it's actually stated by the firm. So we use that to look at H-1B labor demand surrounding the recession, 08 and 09. We're trying to look at what the impacts were to the demand that companies had for laborers during the recession. Something like more leverage, they're, more financial distress. If they are distressed, leads to demanding less labor, right? They're probably going to downsize during the recession, or at least stop hiring. And then we wanted to look at something that was plausibly exogenous, like grant applications. Hey, are there firms that actually were doing well that could pick up better, more skilled H-1B visa workers? And we could tell from the data that that's what they were going after. So we ended up doing that study and leading it into, okay, these firms that did hire or wanted to hire better H-1B visa workers, more skilled, did they have better patenting outcomes on the backside? And what we saw in the data is, yeah, they had more patenting efficiency post-recession than pre-recession.
Wow, that's interesting.
It could be due to me overlooking them. Who knows?
So as a fifth-year student on the job market, post-COVID, how is it?
Oh, man. So I actually graduated from undergrad in 08, December of 08. So in the thick of the recession. And here I was like, okay, I got my MBA in 2014. I should be cleared, get my PhD, and should run into this problem again. Like, maybe there'll be a recession, but I hope not. And then COVID hit, and I was like, it's undergrad all over again. Like, the jobs are going to go away, and it's just going to be painful. But I would say last year, the job market for PhDs in finance was pretty slim. A lot of uncertainty in the federal funding that would trickle down to the states, or just the state funding that would trickle down to the universities. This year has actually been pretty good. I didn't have a whole lot of hope going into this, having dealt with the recession, but there's been a lot of universities that are hiring. They're seeing a lot more students matriculate, and they're seeing them stay for an extended period of time to go to graduate school. So at least the MBA programs that I've heard about, and even at FSU, they've picked up like 20 to 40% over their normal volume that they would have had pre-COVID. So there is a bigger demand for professors, at least in the business schools, and definitely in finance. And so I think at this point I won't say the exact number because somebody might see this before I hit the job market at the end of the month, but I have a lot of interviews, and I've already have flyouts on my schedule. So I am pretty confident I will land a very good job after this.
Oh, this is a great news. So do I understand that you're going into education, like jobs at universities, or are you going into the other, I guess, market and more
industry jobs? No, so you're correct. I'll be sticking with the academic position, either assistant professor of finance with tenure track, or clinical assistant professor of finance without tenure. Either one is appealing to me. I think they're both very interesting. They do two completely different things at times, depending on what university it is. And I'm looking forward to, having an influence on a student's life, multiple students' lives, hopefully, because that's one of the reasons I'm here and I joined the PhD program. I had a professor in undergrad that he happened to be a finance class and just had a phenomenal impact on me and made me think about this path for the very first time. And yeah, I kind of like to, give back and hopefully do that for somebody else.
All right. So you were in the industry before, working at a bank. Now you are going into education. Why the switch?
It's a variety of reasons, but I would say at the base of it, when I was in undergraduate, I thought, hey, if I ever get out of the Navy, maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll be a professor afterwards. I think this is really interesting. I love being on a college campus. Just the learning atmosphere has always appealed to me. But when I found myself working at the bank and as a controller for a nonprofit, I always found myself kind of doing a little bit of finance research on my own, just to kind of, use that part of my brain. So like when I say finance research, I did like studies on stocks. I looked at 401k returns and that sort of thing. And I actually ended up putting together a paper with my mentor at the University of North Florida. And the work that I initially put into it, I was doing in my cubicle at my corporate job. And I just happened to bring it to him and say, hey, like, I was working on this. Do you think it could be a paper? Do you want to work on it with me? Ultimately turned it into a paper and got it published. So I'd say that's number one for why I took the path. It's just stimulating to do research, I think, for me at least. And then two, I think I've heard it said a lot, corporate America is not for everybody. It's a fun atmosphere. I made some really good friends while I worked in the corporate environment. I had some leaders that had a profound impact on me, but ultimately it was something I said, hey, I think I want to be in academia more than I want to be in corporate America. And it stemmed back to always being very comfortable on a college campus. And so I decided I'd give it a shot. If it didn't pay out, I could always go back to corporate America. But already having a naval career and a corporate career, I figured the time was probably running out to go back and get a PhD, especially having a family.
Well, you look young, but it sounds like you've had so many different lives already. Is there
Thanks, I appreciate that. So I'm married, been married for 11 years now, and I have a 6-year-old. So I started my PhD with he was 2.5 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a PhD student, a father, what does your day look like? Your typical day looks like?
Actually, it's not too bad, or I don't think it's too bad from what I was used to before. So I treat this like a job. So to me, I always consider it like a 9 to 5. I did a 9 to 5 previously before coming here. This is just a 9 to 5 again. So I wake my son up, get him ready for school, usually take him to school. And after that, pre-COVID, I would drive straight to campus and I'd sit in my office on campus from 9 to 5. And then I'd leave school and pick my son up, go home, play with him, be a dad and a husband until about 8, 9 o'clock at night. And then from there, either put him to bed, my wife would put him to bed, and I would spend time with her until I went to sleep. Or if I had like a really pressing like research project I needed to get done, like I need to clean up a data set or something like that, I would work on that. But for the most part, I tend to get most of my work done throughout the day, 9 to 5. And just keep repeating the process over and over again.
And how do you relax?
Spending time with family is my relaxation. So I'm not really good about it, but I try to put my phone away from that 5 to whenever my son goes to bed, like the 5 to 9 o'clock slot. Put my phone down, don't answer it. Play video games with him. He's really big into Super Mario right now. And I remember playing that when I was growing up. So I played Super Mario with him. I took up golf last year as a way to, 1, do something that was outdoors, and 2, spend more time with my son. So we go golfing together here in Tallahassee. That's fun. And then outside of that, we're always going somewhere. So we go up to Thomasville a lot, down to Apalachicola, maybe over to Monticello as a family. And we just enjoying the things that, we wouldn't normally think about, like going to a pumpkin patch. Like that's, pretty benign activity, but we make an event out of it. So that's typically how I relax.
Oh, that sounds fun. It sounds like you have a very balanced life between your work and between your family. And it's, you always read, it's very important to take care of yourself. And it sounds like you found that balance to be able to do that and still be a successful graduate student. So I'm impressed.
Thank you. It wasn't always like this. When I worked at the bank, I did not have balance in my life. And that was one of the things I was hoping academia could give me. And it has so far. I'm very thankful for it.
My last question is, how do you picture your life in 5 years from today?
Hopefully, it's close to what it is now. 9 to 5, and spending time with family. I mean, my son, by that time, he won't be a teenager. He'll be 11 though, so I imagine maybe like the pre-teenage angst at that time, but enjoying where we're living, hopefully traveling more than we do now as a doc student, and spending even more time together. Maybe I can have a lake house by that point, but that's a dream. I know that is.
Well, it's a dream. It's a question about your dreams. So
Yeah.
everything is possible. And is there
Yeah.
a place? Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted something I always kind of wanted, like, you watch movies, see people going to their lake house, and I was like, oh, that looks like a good time.
I agree. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I wish you good luck for the job market. Good luck in working towards this dream life. And
well, thank you. I appreciate it. It was great talking to you, and I hope viewers get something useful out of this.
Yes, no, it was it's always great to hear about different perspective. It's my first time interviewing somebody in finance, and I found it very interesting. I never thought you could do a PhD in finance, actually. I guess you can do a PhD in anything.
No, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, H-1B is one facet of my research, but my other facet of research is art. So I like the art market. I get my appreciation for art from my wife. I give all the credit to her on that. And yeah, I try and pick fascinating research topics that just interest me in general. So yeah, it's not just boring looking at stocks, looking at stock returns and that sort of thing. Finance can cover a pretty wide gambit of topics, and up into including like the art market, collectible cars, cryptocurrencies, that sort of thing. So absolutely.
So what did you look into art?
Okay, so the second chapter of my dissertation actually looks at the death of notable artists. So notable artists, I mean like Picasso, Andy Warhol, people like that, people in the 20th century, renowned artists. And what we're looking at is when they pass, is their effect on the way the auction houses price their artworks when they go up for auction. So when a piece goes up for auction, the auction house will put a pre-sale estimate on it. Let's say it's an Andy Warhol, a Maryland piece, and they say estimate is 1 million to 1.5 million. Well, we're looking specifically at how they change their estimates after that noteworthy artist has passed away. And what we find is that they decrease it slightly. So like their dispersion, their range, that upper and lower bound, they decrease it. And they're generally less accurate. And by less accurate, the direction there is they undervalue. So they underestimate the price, and the piece typically sells for more. So that's one facet of art that I'm looking at.
Oh, that's interesting to undervalue, but ended up selling it for more.
Yes. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to figure out what the mechanism is there. Like if they're noteworthy auction houses, let's say like Christie's, Sotheby's, or Phillips, they make up the bulk of the art auction market. And why are they not picking up on the effect? Like we can hypothesize and perform some tests, but ultimately, you need to sit down and talk to them. How do they price art? And be on a case-by-case basis. But as far as a research study goes, we do it in the best possible light, we think, for answering this question.
Wow, fascinating. Well, thank you for sharing your research with me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right, thank you. You too. It's great to meet you, Honorine.
Thank you.